All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. Today, we're completely deconstructing traditional financial advice, and we're going to look exactly at where the smart money is secretly moving right now. Because look, if you've ever felt like the rules of money were literally written to work against you, well, you're probably not wrong. So we're going to break down the exact strategies the wealthy use, starting with the psychology of money, and then zooming right into a massive kind of hidden arms race that's happening right this second between AI and the energy sector. So, we really have to start by asking a tough question. Is the old formula, go to school, get a safe job, save your money, stay out of debt, is that actually a trap designed to keep you struggling? Just think about it for a second. Our sources highlight that thanks to the fractional reserve banking system, when you deposit $1, the bank doesn't just put it in a vault. No way. They lend it out up to 10 times over to other people. They're literally multiplying your money to generate interest for their own profit. And by doing that, they're flooding the market with new currency, which essentially makes your hard-earned savings worth less and less thanks to inflation. So if the bank is multiplying your money for their profit while inflation eats away at your savings, who is the system actually designed to help? But crazy enough, that is exactly what we're all universally taught to do.
Which brings us to our first major concept, the illusion of hard work, and why simply grinding away isn't the real path to true wealth.
Just look at the stark contrast between a traditional employee and an investor. The employee is terrified of debt, right? They're desperately seeking the illusion of job security, only to get absolutely hammered by taxes and inflation year after year. But the investor, they look at debt as a highly leveraged tool. Think about how most people approach a loan. It's seen as this massive burden. But here's the kicker. Because borrowed money isn't classified as income by the government, it is entirely tax-free. Smart investors literally borrow this tax-free money to acquire assets, like real estate or businesses that produce passive income, and then they use that income to pay down the debt. It's the exact same financial system, but navigated in two completely different ways. What this really means is that playing it completely safe might actually be the riskiest move you could possibly make.
As our source material points out, true wealth isn't built through backbreaking physical labor. It's built by rewiring your brain to see opportunities where everyone else just sees risk. Opportunities don't just tap you on the shoulder, they're largely invisible to the untrained eye. For example, a normal person drives past a rundown, abandoned apartment building and sees an eyesore. They see a liability, a massive headache. But the trained investor brain, they look at that exact same building and see a blank canvas. They see forced appreciation, structural tax benefits, and monthly cash flow. You really have to train your mind to look beyond the surface level, stop feeling like a victim of the economy, and start seeing the hidden mechanics of how money actually flows.
So now that we understand that mindset shift, let's explore the actual rules the wealthy use to operate in any economy.
This brings up the concept of the infinite return, which I absolutely love. It completely shifts your goal from earning a stagnant salary to engineering brilliant deals. Imagine putting a real estate or business acquisition together using other people's money, OPM. Say you find an underperforming business, take out a commercial loan to buy it, and then use the business's own revenue to pay off the monthly loan obligations. When you have literally zero of your own personal cash tied up in an investment, and it's generating positive cash flow straight into your pocket, your return on investment is mathematically infinite. You don't need money to make money anymore, you just need the financial intelligence to structure the deal.
And here's a crucial point. Financially smart people do not view the tax code as a burden. They see it as a literal treasure map. It shows you exactly where the government desperately needs capital to go. Taxes are incentives, not punishments. The government uses them to reward you for providing what society needs. For instance, if a city has a massive housing shortage, the government is going to offer incredible depreciation benefits and tax credits to investors who step up and build those units. You're not nefariously avoiding taxes. You're doing exactly what the government wants you to do. Instead of paying the highest tax rates as an ordinary W-2 employee, you just follow the map and position yourself right where the capital is flowing.
This leads us to a total paradigm shift about how life-changing income is actually generated. Wealth is built in deals. When you compare a standard paycheck to a financial deal side by side, it clicks. The world's richest people build fortunes by finding and executing deals, not by waiting around for a 3% annual corporate promotion. A paycheck fundamentally requires you to trade your completely finite time for money. There are only so many hours in a day, which puts a hard cap on what you can earn, all while getting crushed by the highest tax brackets. A deal, on the other hand, brings infinite scalability.
It's tax-advantaged and is literally only limited by your imagination and your willingness to act. You can hold equity in 10 different cash-flowing deals at once without working 10 times as hard. But here's the catch, right? Information alone is entirely useless. Everyone has the internet, everyone watches the news. It requires imagination to transform a terrifying crisis into a cash-flowing asset. Take the 2008 financial crash. While the masses panicked and liquidated everything, those with an investor mindset sought incredibly cheap assets. They combined the information of the crash with the imagination to see future value. They bought foreclosed real estate at 50 cents on the dollar, scooped up blue-chip dividend stocks while everyone else was panic selling. They turned a generational crisis into a massive, once-in-a-lifetime wealth-building event.
Okay, let's take all these macro wealth philosophies and funnel them down into a highly specific real-world arms race happening right now.
While the masses are totally distracted buying up trendy software stocks, the real investors know that artificial intelligence is way beyond just a tech story now. It's dictating military strategy, economic dominance, global power. It has become an urgent national priority. And remember our rule from earlier? When something becomes a national priority, the rules change and the big money moves.
So what does AI actually need to exist? Power. And this number is just staggering. The US will need 100 gigawatts of new power for AI data centers in the next 5 years. To put that into perspective for you, that is the equivalent of powering 100 entirely new cities. It's insane. AI doesn't run on magic, it runs on massive, consistent, uninterrupted electricity. Training these large language models takes colossal server farms computing 24/7. Just one single ChatGPT query requires nearly 10 times the electricity of a standard Google search. The infrastructure demands are absolutely astronomical. So how do we solve this massive energy bottleneck? Enter the new nuclear paradigm. Look, our current power grid was built for a world that simply doesn't exist anymore. It cannot handle this sudden demand. Wind and solar just can't provide the consistent baseline power these data centers require. So that points us directly to a dormant giant, nuclear energy. Now, for 50 years, nuclear was completely frozen by a bureaucratic catch-22. Regulators wanted real-world performance data before approving new designs, but you couldn't build a reactor to get that data without prior approval. It was a total dead end. But the government's desperate need for AI supremacy, that has finally changed the rules. They've streamlined the whole pathway. The new model is basically build the initial reactor, collect the real-world data, and use that to trigger a massive scaling event. Once that first reactor proves the concept, the floodgates open for mass production. And this is where it gets really exciting. We are witnessing a massive shift away from dangerous one-off mega projects to safe, scalable, small modular reactors, or SMRs. Instead of taking 20 years and billions of dollars to build a unique, massive plant, we are moving to a factory production model. Think about what Henry Ford did for the automobile, standardizing it, putting it on an assembly line. SMRs are doing the exact same thing for nuclear reactors. They can be built in a factory, shipped on a standard semi-truck, and clustered together right next to an AI data center. And believe me, big tech companies will gladly pay a massive premium for this rapid, reliable, off-grid energy. We're already seeing the early stages of a massive market shift, as distinct companies solve this AI power problem from completely different, highly lucrative angles. Take Oklo, for example. Fascinating model. They don't just manufacture and sell reactors, they actually retain ownership of the asset and sell the electricity directly to the end user, like an AI data center, under long-term contracts. It is a pure cash flow play. Then you've got TerraPower taking a different route. They're building broader, grid-scale infrastructure that large utility companies desperately need to update their aging systems. And then X-Energy is using advanced high-temperature reactors, specifically designed to power heavy manufacturing and industrial heat processes. So that's 3 totally different strategies, but they're all built on one undeniable thesis. The future of technology requires a total renaissance in nuclear power.
But of course, none of this matters without our final concept, putting action over fear.
Because honestly, all this fascinating analysis is useless if we don't apply the investor mindset and actually overcome the fear of failure. You have to decide right now, are you going to act like an ordinary consumer chasing headlines, or are you going to step up like a true investor? When you read a headline about AI, are you asking what app to download, or are you asking who owns the power grid running the app? The consumer mind asks surface-level questions and waits for the evening news to tell them what to do.
But by the time a trend hits mainstream news, the smart money is already moved. The highest returns are gone. The investor mind asks foundational questions about infrastructure and takes action way before the crowd arrives.
To get financially smart, you absolutely have to step out of your comfort zone. The traditional school system ingrained in us that making mistakes makes you a failure, right? They punish you for every wrong answer. But in the real world of wealth building, the entrepreneur or investor who makes the most mistakes and actually learns from them is the one who wins. Waiting for the perfect time, the perfect market conditions, or perfect information guarantees you only one thing: you will entirely miss out on the deal. You literally have to increase your failure rate to increase your success rate. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to really challenge your perspective on modern wealth building. The true financial revolution isn't just happening in software code. It's happening in the physical power grid that makes all that software possible. Are you just going to be a spectator watching the world change? Or are you going to use your imagination, follow the government's tax map, and actively position yourself on the supply side of a critical national need? I really want you to think deeply about your next move. Thanks for diving into this explainer with me, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking Robert Kiyosaki's blueprint for wealth, and we're taking a huge leap, shifting from basic financial mindsets all the way up to some massive high-stakes investments. If you've ever felt like that traditional advice of, just work hard and save your pennies isn't exactly adding up anymore, well, you're absolutely in the right place, because we're going to completely deconstruct that narrative today. Here's our roadmap for this little journey of unlearning. We'll start with the myth of hard work, then talk about rewiring your financial brain, and then jump into the actual rules of the rich. From there, we pivot to a wild real-world application, the hidden AI arms race, owning the infrastructure, and finally, why mindset always conquers money. Let's get to it. Section 1, the myth of hard work, and why physical labor ultimately fails. We're taught from a very young age that hard work automatically equals money, right? But honestly, a closer look at the real world reveals a pretty tough reality. The people who work the absolute hardest physically are often the ones struggling the most financially. So, if hard work isn't the magic key, what is? It really comes down to this ultimate contrast in how we view money. On one side, you've got the school mindset. School basically trains us to be employees. You get a job, you save your cash, you fear debt like the plague, and you wait patiently for someone to hand you an opportunity. But on the flip side, the wealth mindset operates in an entirely different reality. The wealthy use their imagination to spot hidden opportunities. They actually use debt as a tool, and they proactively construct deals when everyone else is just paralyzed by fear. Look, information is everywhere today, but it's your imagination that actually creates wealth. Section 2, rewiring your financial brain. To change your programming and stop acting like an employee, you literally have to rewire your neural pathways. If you want to capitalize on major economic shifts, you've got to operate in what's called the I quadrant, the investor mindset. An I quadrant thinker isn't out there looking for a job, they're looking for a signal. They don't stare at a paycheck, they look at the tax code like it's a treasure map. And instead of stashing cash in a savings account where it literally loses value, they move money into cash-flowing assets. It's the exact same economic system we all live in, they just approach it with a completely different brain. Building wealth is practically an interactive game, and the very first rule, fail more. Kiyosaki shares this crazy story about his early days at Xerox, where he was just utterly terrified of selling. So his rich dad told him to intentionally step up his failure rate. The guy actually set a goal to fail 35 times a day, just to beat the wimp inside him. And once you conquer that fear, you can start playing Monopoly in real life. Trading 4 greenhouses for 1 red hotel. You stop trying to be the smartest person in the room, and you start building an expert team around you instead. Section 3, the rules of the rich. Now that we've got the mindset down, and we've kicked that fear of failure to the curb, it's time to learn the hidden mechanics of how the wealthy actually multiply their money. So the crucial mechanism you have to understand here is the fractional reserve system. Think about this. When you deposit $1 in the bank, they don't just lock it in a vault for safekeeping. No, the banking system is legally allowed to lend out 10 times that amount. They are essentially printing money by creating debt. And because of this dynamic, saving money is a losing game. The system is constantly devaluing your saved dollars by printing more into existence, all while heavily incentivizing borrowing. And that system brings us to income types. Ordinary income, the money you earn from a standard 9 to 5, is the highest taxed income in the world. But passive income, the money earned from investments and leveraging debt, that's often entirely tax-free. This blows my mind, but it's exactly why the wealthy use debt to buy assets. Debt is tax-free, and it lets investors achieve infinite returns, meaning they have absolutely zero of their own money left in a deal once it's successfully rolling. Which leads to a really profound shift in perspective. You have to start realizing that the tax code is just a government's way of telling you where to put your money. They don't use it as a punishment, they use it as a massive map of incentives. If you provide affordable housing, or create jobs, or build vital infrastructure, basically doing the things civilization desperately needs, the government rewards you with tax breaks. It's literally a map pointing directly to where capital needs to flow to solve the big problems. Section 4, the hidden AI arms race. Let's zoom out and look at the macro application here, because we're entering the most consequential hidden arms race of the next 50 years. And spoiler alert, it's not about missiles or tanks. It's entirely about artificial intelligence. 100 gigawatts. Just let that sink in for a second. Within the next 5 years, new AI data centers in the US alone are going to require this massive amount of power. To put that staggering number into perspective, that is the energy equivalent of building 100 brand new major cities from scratch, just to handle the power consumption of training and running AI models at scale. Which begs the billion-dollar question, right? Where does all that electricity actually come from? The current power grid grew super slowly over decades. It was built for a world that frankly no longer exists. It simply cannot handle this explosive scale. And unfortunately, solar and wind can't provide the massive, consistent, uninterrupted baseload power that these giant data centers require every single second. So we're facing a massive cliffhanger regarding how this whole AI revolution will actually be powered. Now, the sources cite an obscure 2026 law and recent administrative actions by President Trump as major catalysts here. And objectively speaking, investors operating in that I quadrant view these political and legislative shifts purely as indicators. Remember our lesson on the tax code map? When a government makes something a pressing national priority, the rules fundamentally change. And when the rules change, smart capital inevitably flows. True investors don't get caught up in the politics, they just care about reading the map to see exactly where the government is directing the money. Section 5, owning the infrastructure. The answer to this massive AI power crisis, and the exact place where those savvy I-quadrant investors are already positioning themselves, is the new era of nuclear energy. To understand why nuclear is suddenly having a massive comeback, we gotta look at the history. For 50 years, the whole system was frozen solid by a ridiculous regulatory catch-22. Regulators wanted real-world data to approve a reactor, but you couldn't build a reactor without approval. No data, no approval. No approval, no data. It was totally stuck. But that loop is finally broken. The Department of Energy has opened up essential pathways for real-world data collection. So we're moving out of the dark ages of custom, multi-decade construction projects that go billions over budget and stepping into a future of mass production with small modular reactors, or SMRs. We're shifting from slow construction to efficient factory line production. And we're already seeing 3 totally different companies solving this exact same AI power problem from entirely different, highly lucrative angles. You've got Oklo, which isn't just selling reactors, they own them and sell the electricity directly, focusing purely on consistent cash flow. Then there's TerraPower, building massive grid-scale infrastructure to support major utilities. And X-Energy's out there using high-temp reactors for hydrogen and industrial heat, positioning themselves as the backbone of heavy manufacturing. This divergence, different companies tackling the exact same problem from unique angles, is exactly what the early stages of a massive market shift look like. Section 6, mindset over money. Because at the end of the day, taking advantage of these massive generational infrastructure shifts requires a return to our foundational lesson. True financial independence isn't about wildly throwing your savings at whatever AI software stock is making the headlines today. It's about remembering this. Money is what you create through a deal. It's about using your imagination and your financial education to position yourself on the supply side of a desperate national need way before the masses even catch on. While everyone else is frantically asking, hey, which AI company should I invest in? The true investor takes a step back and asks, what does AI fundamentally need in order to exist at all? So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. Are you going to keep acting like an employee, just sitting around waiting for the evening news to tell you what to do? Or are you ready to build the mindset of an investor, crush that fear of failure, and use your imagination to own the infrastructure that our entire future depends on? The map is drawn. The choice is entirely yours.
Welcome to this explainer. We're going to jump right in today because we are completely reframing how you think about money and income. We're breaking away from that traditional paycheck mindset, and instead, we're going to learn how to spot massive, multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure shifts way before the rest of the world even catches on. If you want to visualize what real wealth generation looks like, let's create a cinematic image of the hidden arms race happening right now in the global economy.
We're kicking things off with a massive paradigm shift from entrepreneur Robert Kiyosaki. This quote absolutely dismantles the very foundation of the traditional working world and how we generate money. He argues that needing a paycheck means you've basically sold your body, your mind, and your time out of fear. Now, it's a pretty provocative thought, but honestly, it's the perfect starting point to break out of our old financial programming.
Section 1. The Paycheck Illusion. Breaking the Matrix of Traditional Income. There is a really stark divide between two completely different financial worlds. On one side, you've got the employee mindset. People here work for ordinary income, which, by the way, gets taxed at the absolute highest rates. They chase this illusion of job security and try to save their way to wealth. But the true investor mindset, it's the exact opposite. True investors use borrowed money to buy cash-flowing assets. They seek passive income, and because they understand how the rules actually work, they legally minimize or even completely eliminate their taxes. So the absolutely crucial point here is that true wealth is created through deals and imagination, not salaries. A regular job is just that, an illusion of security. The world's richest people don't build their wealth by saving pennies from a weekly paycheck. They build it by putting together strategic deals. They see massive opportunities where everyone else just sees risk. Section 2. Money is debt. The hidden mechanics of the banking system. You know, you've probably been told your entire life to save your money. But under our fractional reserve banking system, when you save a single dollar, the bank can legally lend out 10 times that amount. They are, for all intents and purposes, printing money. So the wild reality is that saving money actually makes you poorer over time, because this continuous printing devalues your hard-earned savings. The purchasing power of your money drops, while the banks just keep getting richer off the interest.
The contrast in how debt gets used is fascinating. Most people are terrified of debt, or they just use it incredibly poorly. The poor and middle class borrow money to buy liabilities, things that actively drain money out of their pockets, like new cars or designer purses. But the wealthy? They use debt, which is completely tax-free, to acquire wealth-generating assets. They are literally using other people's money to get richer. Section 3. Income through imagination. The shift to infinite returns.
Think about it. Everyone has a smartphone in their pocket. Everyone has access to the exact same information on the internet. But real income? That is generated when you combine that information with imagination. It's all about spotting the incredible deal that everyone else is totally blind to. Imagination is what takes a random piece of data and transforms it into a cash-flowing asset. This framework is the ultimate holy grail for the elite investor, the infinite return. Step 1, you put zero of your own money into a deal. Step 2, you use debt to acquire a cash-flowing asset. And step 3, you just collect that cash flow forever. Because you literally have none of your own initial capital tied up, your return on investment is technically infinite. You've essentially created an asset out of thin air using just your mind and a deep understanding of the financial system. Section 4. The hidden AI arms race, where the smart money is really flowing. Right now, most people are blindly buying up AI software stocks just because they saw it on the news. But they are completely missing this staggeringly massive number, 100 gigawatts. That is the sheer volume of new electricity demand that data centers are going to require in the United States in just the next 5 years to keep AI running.
To paint a cinematic picture for you, 100 gigawatts is roughly the equivalent of building 100 brand new cities from scratch in half a decade. Our 50-year-old power grid is absolutely not ready for this. Civilization runs on energy, and powering the AI revolution is forcing an obsolete grid to its absolute breaking point. The smart money isn't just staring at the software. They're looking at the massive physical infrastructure required to actually keep the lights on.
Section 5, the nuclear renaissance. The cinematic infrastructure boom. For 50 years, nuclear development was completely frozen by this ridiculous bureaucratic catch-22. You couldn't get approval without data, and you couldn't get data without building a reactor. But because the explosive AI demand left them with literally no other choice, the Department of Energy has introduced this brand new streamlined approval pathway. Build it, operate it, collect the data, and then scale it up. The gridlock is finally broken.
And we aren't talking about your grandfather's nuclear plants here. Old nuclear meant massive, highly customized plants that took 15 to 20 years to build at astronomical, budget-busting costs. It was a construction nightmare. But the new model? It relies on SMRs, small modular reactors. These are factory-built, rapidly deployed in the back of a truck and scaled incrementally. It's a total game-changing shift from custom construction to mass production. And the smart money is already moving in. Look at companies like Oklo, TerraPower, and X Energy. They are attacking the power problem from completely different angles. Oklo isn't just selling reactors, they're keeping them and selling the electricity directly for continuous cash flow. TerraPower is building massive grid-scale reactors for utility power, and X Energy is hyper-focused on high-temperature reactors for heavy manufacturing. This kind of wide divergence, it's a flashing signal that a massive new asset class is emerging right before our eyes.
Section 6. Look for the signal. Positioning yourself for generational wealth.
There's a brilliant point hidden in this Kiyosaki quote: "The tax code is the government's way of telling you where to put your money." When the government desperately needs something, like sweeping massive energy infrastructure to maintain global dominance in AI, the rules change, the incentives appear, and that is exactly where the cash flows. The tax code isn't a punishment, guys, it's a treasure map. It really boils down to this. Employees look for a paycheck. Investors look for a signal. Whether we're talking about a market crash, a real estate boom, or the current AI energy crisis, these massive tectonic shifts are where fortunes are actually made. They're made by those who stop acting like fragile employees seeking secure paychecks and instead step up to be deal makers. Don't just look for a job. Start looking for ways to own the infrastructure that those jobs depend on.
I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought. Right now, the masses are out there asking, which AI software company should I buy? But the elite investor, they're asking, what does AI actually need in order to exist at all? The true revolution isn't just happening in the code, it's happening in the physical, cinematic scale power grid. So are you asking the right questions to position yourself where the real money is moving? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this completely changes how you look at the world around you.